He didn't take a map. He didn't take a radio. He just walked. Some of the younger soldiers whispered about it later, wondering what he thought he'd find out there. But those who knew Cole said one thing quietly: if there's even a 1% chance she's alive, he'll find her. They meant it. Cole wasn't like the rest of them. He moved different, thought different. He didn't need much. He remembered every rock, every bend in the trail, the way trees leaned after a storm, the way Ava once said, "If you ever get stuck out here, look for soft ground, mossy spots. That's where the water settles. It's where I'd go." The first night he found nothing, just branches, broken logs, an empty space where someone should have been. But whiskey kept sniffing, kept pulling forward. So Cole followed. No flashlight, just instinct. He kept going even when his knees buckled. Even when the rain made it hard to breathe. He didn't stop. Not even when the pain in his ankle told him something had torn. By sunrise, he'd found her water bottle caught under a log. Muddy, scratched, but still there. He picked it up, wiped the side, and held it tight like it meant something. And to him, it did. Half a mile later, Whiskey stopped. He didn't bark, didn't make a sound. He just stood frozen, ears forward. Cole crouched beside him and looked through the trees. Something was there, not moving, half covered in leaves and mud. A body? No, not that, not yet. He moved closer, slow, careful, and there she was, Ava. She was wedged under a fallen branch, one arm wrapped around her chest. Her face was pale, her lips were cracked. Her leg didn't look right, but her chest moved, just barely. He dropped to his knees beside her. She didn't open her eyes right away. He whispered her name, once, twice. Then her lashes fluttered. Her lips moved, but no words came out. He leaned closer, trying to hear. Then finally, a whisper, "You came." He didn't answer with words, just pulled the emergency blanket from his pack and started wrapping her up, layer by layer, careful not to move her leg. He could feel her body shaking, not from cold, from pain. Her hands were scraped, her pulse was thin, but she was alive, and that's all that mattered. He pressed his forehead to hers for just a second, then stood. "Let's get you home," he said. It took everything he had just to lift her. The trail back was worse than coming in. Mud deeper, branches heavier. Every step felt like it might be the one to take them both down. But he didn't stop. He adjusted her weight, balanced her carefully, whispered to her now and then just to keep her awake. "You're not going to die in this place," he told her. "Not like this." At one point, she opened her eyes again. "Boy. The boy. Is he okay?" Cole nodded. "You saved him." A slow breath left her lips. Relief. That moment kept her awake another mile. When they were nearly at the ridge, her body went limp. He almost dropped her, but he dug his boots in, shifted her weight, and kept moving. Camp came into view just before sunset. Whiskey ran ahead, barking now, loud and clear. And when the first soldier saw them through the trees, he didn't speak. He just stared, then ran. By the time Cole reached the tent, a small crowd had gathered. Nobody said anything, just cleared the way. Let him pass. Let him lay her down on the medic table, his arms shaking now, soaked in mud and blood. He looked around once, then sat beside her and didn't move. Not for hours. Not until she opened her eyes again and whispered, "I thought I was gone." He looked at her, tired but calm. "You were," he said, "but not all the way." And that's how they found each other again. One had stayed because of duty. The other had returned because of love that didn't need words. And somewhere in between, they both survived. She was moved to the recovery tent by noon the next day. Her leg was stabilized, her wounds were cleaned, and the fever had started to drop. Cole didn't move far. He sat just outside, back resting against the canvas wall, eyes closed but never asleep. Every now and then, someone would try to speak to him. He'd nod once, maybe mutter a word, but he wouldn't leave. Whiskey stayed close too, like he was guarding something fragile. And maybe he was. Inside, Ava asked for water. The nurse helped her sit up a little. She winced but didn't complain. She reached out with one shaky hand and touched the worn collar on Whiskey's neck. "You're still here?" she whispered. Whiskey licked her wrist gently. That was answer enough. She looked up and noticed Cole's shadow against the tent wall. She didn't call him in. She just watched it, like it was enough to know he hadn't gone far. Later that afternoon, the camp's CO stepped in. A tall man, clean uniform, eyes sharp. He looked at Ava, then glanced toward the flap. "That man carried you for 6 miles through the storm," he said quietly. "No radio, no backup. He didn't even stop when his foot split open." Ava blinked slowly. "He wouldn't let me go." The CO nodded. "He said you didn't let go of him once. In Syria. When it counted." She closed her eyes. A memory pulled at her, but it wasn't clear. Just pain, dust, and her voice repeating. That night, Cole finally stepped inside. He didn't say much. He didn't sit either. He stood near the cot, holding something small. It was her field watch. Broken face, bent strap, but cleaned, fixed as best he could. He set it on the edge of the table. "Thought you might still want it." She looked at it, then looked at him. "You still fix watches?" "Just yours," he said. A pause. It was still ticking. Barely. Ava smiled faintly. "So was I." He almost smiled back, but it didn't quite reach. Still She reached for the watch, fingers trembling slightly, and held it in her palm. "I always liked how it kept time even when everything else felt stuck." Cole nodded. "That's why I brought it back." Then he looked at her, and something deeper passed between them. Not a moment of romance. A moment of understanding. The kind that didn't need to be spoken. The kind built in fire and dust, blood and rain. Outside the tent, the wind started again. Another storm was coming. But this time she wasn't out there alone. Ava slept most of the next morning. When she finally stirred, the sky outside had turned darker again. Clouds moved heavy across the horizon. She blinked a few times, adjusting to the dim light in the tent, then slowly turned her head. Cole was there, sitting in the corner, arms crossed, same boots, same silence. She didn't speak at first, just looked at him, like she was trying to figure something out. Then she said, "I thought you hated me." He didn't move. "I don't." "You never said anything." "I didn't know what to say," he replied. "Still don't." She let out a quiet breath. "You didn't have to come back." "I know. But you did." "Yeah." She reached for her water again, took a slow sip. Her voice was scratchy but steady. "They said I was dead. I didn't believe it." She looked down at her hands. The skin was still raw around the fingernails. Mud had been scrubbed away, but the stains remained. "I thought I was. For a minute. But you weren't." "No," she said. "Not all the way." The tent flap opened gently, and a medic stepped in with a folded paper. He nodded at Ava, then looked at Cole. "This just came in from command. Debriefs in 2 days. They'll want statements. They're already asking questions." Cole didn't take the paper. He just stared at it. The medic shrugged and left it on the table, then walked out. Ava picked it up slowly, scanned the top line. "Unauthorized field retrieval. Breach of protocol." She folded it in half and set it down. "They're mad you didn't ask P." "I don't follow protocol," Cole said quietly. "Never have." "I know." She smiled a little. "It's why you're still alive." He leaned forward slightly. "Is it true? What the boy said?" "About what?" "You held him up?" She nodded. "He couldn't swim. He was panicking. I used my body to keep his head above the current. And then you got pulled under." "The roots gave way," she said. "I couldn't hold on anymore." "You could have let him go." "I know," she whispered. "But I didn't." He looked at her like he was. "You shouldn't have come back for me," she said. But her voice cracked halfway through. "I wouldn't have made it. Then we'd both be gone. You didn't even know if I was still breathing. Didn't matter." She turned her face away for a moment. A tear slipped down her cheek before she could stop it. "I didn't want to die out there, but I was ready to." You weren't done yet, he said. That's why I found you. Later that night, when the storm hit again, the sound of rain on canvas filled the space between their words. She sat up slowly, adjusting her position on the cot. Cole handed her a pillow without a word. She nodded her thanks. Then, out of nowhere, she asked, "Do you remember the last thing I said to you in Syria?" He was quiet. Then, "You told me a dumb story about a dog who bit your boot and wouldn't let go." She smiled. "Yeah, his name was Dax. He saved you. In a way," she said. "He reminded me." There was a long silence. Then Ava asked, "Are you staying long?" "Until you're cleared," he said. "And after?" "Don't know. You could disappear again." "I might." "You won't," she said softly. "Not this time." He didn't answer, but she didn't need him to. When she fell asleep again, her hand was still resting near the edge of the cot, and for the first time Cole reached out and held it. The next morning, the tent was brighter. Ava was stronger. She sat up without help, ate a full meal, even laughed once when Whiskey tripped over his own feet trying to hop onto the cot. Cole watched from the corner, arms crossed, face neutral. But his eyes were different now, softer, less guarded. That afternoon, the camp CO returned. This time, he brought someone else, a woman in civilian clothes. She introduced herself as a counselor assigned by base command. Ava listened politely, answered a few questions. But when asked if she needed to speak privately, she looked at Cole, then back at the woman. "Not right now," she said. "Maybe later." The woman nodded and left her card. When they were alone again, Ava looked at Cole. "I'm not broken, you know. I never said you were. But you think I might be. I think you've been through hell." "So have you," she said. "Difference is you hide it. And you don't." She tilted her head. "I used to. But I'm tired of pretending." He nodded once. That was all. As the sun dipped lower that evening, Ava stood for the first time. Cole moved forward without thinking, but she held up a hand. "I've got it," she said. Her legs shook, but she stood straight. Whiskey barked once, like he was proud. She smiled. "Feels like starting over." Cole stood beside her. Not touching, just there. "You ever think about leaving all this behind?" she asked. "Sometimes," he said. "But then I remember I don't belong anywhere else." "Maybe you do," she said. "You just haven't found it yet." He looked at her. "And you?" "I used to think I belonged to the fight. But now I think I belong to the ones who come back. Even if it breaks you?" "Especially then," she said. That night, she slept without nightmares. And for the first time in years, so did he. The next day brought quiet to the camp. Not the kind of quiet that comes from nothing happening, but the kind where everyone knew something had changed. Word had spread fast. People who barely knew Ava stopped by to drop off small things. A book, a scarf, even a handwritten card from one of the supply crew that just said, "We're glad you made it." She didn't say much, just smiled and thanked them. Cole noticed she kept all of it. Nothing got thrown away. In the afternoon, a group of soldiers gathered near the field where drills usually took place. They weren't training today. They were talking. One of them said, "He carried her all the way back, 6 miles. Another added, "In the mud, with a torn foot." Someone else shook their head. "Why'd he do it?" The sergeant beside them, who'd seen more years than most of them combined, answered, "Because sometimes you don't leave people behind, no matter what the orders say." They fell quiet after that. Inside the tent, Ava was practicing standing again. Her leg was still weak, wrapped tight, but she was determined. Cole stood nearby, not offering help unless she asked. She didn't. She made it to the chair and back. Then again. On the third try, she stumbled. He stepped forward fast, caught her under the arms, steadied her. She looked up, breathing hard. "Still got fast hands, huh?" "Just lucky," he said. "No such thing," she replied. He helped her sit, then crouched beside her. "You don't have to prove anything." "I do," she said. "To myself." He nodded slowly. "That's the only one that matters." Later that evening, they sat outside for the first time. just a few feet from the tent, but it felt like more. The air was cool, the sky beginning to clear. Ava leaned back in the chair, whiskey curled up at her feet. Cole sat beside her, arms on his knees, eyes watching the horizon. "Do you ever think about what comes next?" she asked. "Sometimes. And never really had a plan." "Me either," she said. "Before all this, I thought I knew what I wanted. Medals, rank, respect. Now," she paused. "I just Cole didn't look at her. "You earned all of it. But you didn't need any of it." She was quiet for a moment. "Neither did you." Night settled in slowly. The stars were faint but visible. The camp was still, the sound of distant chatter fading into silence. Cole stood to stretch. Ava looked up at him. "You leaving?" "Just stretching. You don't have to stay with me every night." "I know. But you still do." "Yeah." She looked down. "I don't want to be alone yet." "Then I'll stay," he said simply. The next morning brought a surprise. A letter. It was handed to Ava by one of the base clerks. Sealed. She opened it slowly. Her hands trembled just slightly. Inside was a note from the boy she saved. His handwriting was shaky, the letters uneven. "Dear medic lady, thank you for not letting me drown. I hope you get better. My mom says you're a hero. I think you are too. I hope your dog is okay. Love, Jacob." She read it twice, then again. Cole didn't say anything, but she passed it to him. He read it as That night, she pinned the letter to the wall beside her cot. No medals, no certificates, just the words of a child who lived because she didn't let go. Time passed differently after that. Her strength came back slowly. She walked farther each day. She laughed more, even started helping with light duties. The other medics welcomed her back without question. But everyone noticed. She was different now, softer in some ways, stronger in others. And Cole, he hadn't changed much. Still quiet, still kept to himself. But he didn't leave. Not this time. One evening, as the sun dropped low and turned everything gold, Ava sat with a small notebook in her lap. She was writing. When Cole passed by, she looked up. "Do you write?" she asked. "No, you should." "Why?" "Because you see things no one else sees. Doesn't mean I can say them." "Writing's not about saying it right," she said. "It's about not letting it get stuck inside." He nodded once and kept walking. Later that night, after she was asleep, he slipped a small folded note into the corner of her notebook. Just one sentence. "You weren't gone, just out of reach." She found the note the next morning. Didn't say anything about it, but he saw the way she folded it back neatly and tucked it into the inside cover like it meant something. That afternoon, she walked to the edge of the camp without crutches. It wasn't far, but it was the first time she'd done it alone. Whiskey followed close, tail low, staying just behind her left leg like he remembered exactly where her injury was. Cole watched from a distance. He didn't say anything until she turned around and looked at him. "You coming?" she asked. He stood and walked over, his steps slow but steady. "Where we going?" "Nowhere," she said. "Just out." They didn't speak for a while, just walked side by side. The trees were still wet from a recent rain, and the ground was soft. It reminded them both of that day. Ava finally broke the silence. "I was scared," she said. "Not of dying, of being forgotten." He looked straight ahead. "I didn't forget you. I know. That's why I made it." They kept walking. When they got back to camp, a few soldiers waved at them. A quiet respect had formed around them, not just because of what happened, but because of how they came back from it. Together. That evening, Ava sat by the fire pit, her notebook in her lap again. She didn't write this time, just held it. Cole sat across from her, tying knots in a spare bootlace. She watched him for a minute. "Why didn't you ever tell anyone?" "Tell them what?" "That I saved you." "Didn't need to." "Still," she said, "people should." "Then let them tell your story," he said. "I'll just be the footnote." She smiled at that. "You're not a footnote. You're the reason I'm still here." Whiskey stretched out between them, resting his head on Ava's boot. She scratched behind his ears and whispered, "Good boy." Cole looked into the fire. "You ever think you'd make it back?" "Honestly," she said. "No, me neither. But here we are." "Yeah," he said. "Here we are." Days passed. Ava got stronger. Cole started talking more. Just small things. Observations. A story about a meal he had once in Germany. A comment about how whiskey snored louder than any person he knew. Ava listened, laughed, sometimes gave him a look that said, "Keep going." So he did, little by little, word by word. One morning, she handed him her notebook. "Write something," she said. "Anything." He looked at the blank page, then back at her. "I don't know how." "Yes, you do. Just start with the truth." He stared at the paper for a long time, then picked up the pen. Slowly, carefully, he wrote, "She didn't scream when the water took her. She just looked up and let go." He slid the notebook back to her. She read it, then closed it gently. "That's the beginning," she said. "Of what?" "Of whatever comes next." That night, rain came again. Soft this time, more like a reminder than a warning. Ava stood under the awning outside the tent, watching it fall. Cole stepped beside her. "Storm's lighter this time," he said. "Still rain," she replied. "But we're not out there," he said. "We're not drowning." She looked at him. "No, we're not." She took a slow breath. "You ever think about what you want? Like, really want?" "Not often." "Try now." He was quiet. Then, "I want peace." "Think you'll find it?" "Maybe," he said, "if I stop running." "You're not running now," she said. "You stopped. You came back." "So did you," he said. The rain kept falling, soft and steady. They stood there, side by side, saying nothing more. And for the first time in a long time, nothing felt missing. Ava started walking the perimeter path every morning. Not for rehab anymore, but because it reminded her she was still here. She didn't time it, didn't push herself. She just walked, slow and steady, with whiskey trotting beside her, always watching. On the fourth day, Cole joined her without saying a word. He just fell into step beside her, quiet like always, matching her pace exactly. After a few minutes, she glanced over. "You stalking me now?" "Just making sure you don't fall in another river." Was just. They walked the loop without speaking. Sometimes it was better that way. Not every memory needed words. Some things were heavier in silence. When they reached the end, she stopped and faced him. "You know I would have come for you too, right?" He nodded once. "I know. Even if they said not to." "You already did," he said. She nodded, then looked down. "I had dreams when I was under. Don't know how long. Just flashes. You were in one." "Yeah. You were sitting by a fire, fixing something. Kept trying." That night, she took out the notebook again, opened to a blank page. She didn't write much. Just one line. He was still there. She closed it, placed it under her pillow, and turned out the light. 2 days later, the debrief finally happened. Ava sat on one side of the table, the base commander on the other. 2 officers took notes. One asked about the decision to go after the civilian boy. Another asked why she didn't wait for backup. Ava answered calmly, "Because waiting meant he drowned. And I didn't come all this way to let that happen." The commander looked over his glasses. "And your own safety?" "Didn't matter," she said. "Not in that moment." They nodded, scribbled more notes. One of them, "Wasn't a rescue," Cole said. "It was a return. She wasn't listed for retrieval. She wasn't cargo. She was a soldier. My teammate." The officer looked annoyed. "So you just left?" "No," Cole said. "I just didn't stay." They didn't press further. They knew better. They thanked them both and ended the session. As they walked out, Ava looked at him. "You really said that?" "Yeah." "You think of that on the spot?" "No," he said. "I've been thinking about it since I saw her helmet in the roots." That evening, the camp held a small dinner outside. Nothing fancy, just firelight, warm food, and quiet music from someone's speaker. Ava sat between two medics, laughing at a story about someone accidentally swapping iodine with coffee powder. Cole stood nearby, arms folded, watching her. One of the soldiers leaned over and said to him, "You always this protective?" Cole didn't answer. He just kept watching her. Ava caught his eye from across the fire. She smiled. He nodded once. Later, when the fire burned low, they sat alone. Just the two of them and whiskey asleep in the dirt. Ava poked the embers with a stick. "You still think about going back out there?" she asked. "Sometimes." "What stops you?" "Not knowing if I'd come back." "And now?" He didn't answer right away. Then he said, "Now I know someone's waiting." She looked at him, eyes softer, brighter. "You're not alone anymore." "Neither are you," he said. They sat in that silence a long time. And for the first time, silence didn't feel empty. It felt like a promise. 2 weeks passed. The medics cleared Ava for limited duty. She could walk without help now, carry light gear, sit in on briefings. Everyone treated her differently, but not in a bad way. Like she'd been somewhere none of them had, and come back with something they couldn't quite name. They asked her questions sometimes. About the flood. About how it felt. About whether she remembered everything. She answered the ones she could. The rest she kept to herself. Cole didn't go back on mission. He stayed close, but not because anyone asked him to. He just wasn't ready to walk away. Neither was she. One afternoon, Ava found him near the edge of the base, working on a broken comms unit. His hands were covered in dust, wires tangled. She crouched beside him and watched for a minute. "You fix everything except yourself," she said. He looked at her, eyes tired but clear. "Maybe some things ain't meant to be fixed." She picked up a tool and handed it to him. "Maybe. Or maybe you're just scared someone might care." "About what?" "About you," she said. "About what you've carried." He looked down at the wires. "It's heavy, Ava. Some of it I don't even have words for." "You don't need words," she said. "You just need someone who won't walk away when you go quiet." He didn't respond, but he didn't pull away either. That night, she brought him a cup of coffee. Not the camp kind. Real coffee. Someone had sent her a package from home. Inside, ground beans from her hometown in Oregon. She handed him the cup. He smelled it. "Smells like pine. Smells like my kitchen," she said. "When my dad got home from shift." He took a sip, closed his eyes for just a second. "It's good." "Yeah." She sat beside him. "I miss home, but I don't want to leave this either." "Then don't," he said. "Stay where you matter." She looked at him. "Do I?" He turned, met her eyes. "You always did." They didn't speak after that for a while. Just watched the steam rise off the coffee. That moment lasted longer than it needed to, but not longer than it should have. A week later, orders came in. Cole was cleared to rotate out. Ava was offered leave. She didn't take it. Neither did he. Instead, they both walked into the CO's tent together and said they'd stay through the end of the current rotation. When asked why, Ava said, "Because some stories aren't done yet." The CO didn't argue. On the final evening of that month, after the last patrol had checked in and the radios had gone quiet, Ava pulled a small envelope from her pack. She handed it to Cole. "It's not a letter," she said. "It's a photo." He opened it. It was from that day. The one when he carried her out of the forest. Someone had snapped it from a distance. He didn't know the photo existed. His back was to the camera. Ava on his shoulder, her hand hanging down, fingers curled slightly. Whiskey just ahead of them, mud flying as he ran. Cole stared at it for a long time, then finally said, "I don't remember this part." "I do," she said. "It's the moment I realized I wasn't alone." She reached out and placed her hand gently on his. "You brought me back," she whispered. "But I'm not the only one who came back that day." Cole didn't say anything, but he didn't have to. He turned the photo over. On the back, she'd written 6 words in small, careful handwriting. "He found me when I was gone." He looked at her, and finally, for the first time in years, he smiled. Cole kept the photo in his front pocket. He didn't frame it, didn't talk about it. But every once in a while, his hand would brush against the folded edge, and he'd pause just for a second, as if making sure it was still there. Ava noticed. She never said anything, but she knew. Some things didn't need to be talked about. Some things were just shared. They stayed at the outpost for another month. The weather cleared. The missions changed. But the way people looked at them stayed the same. Like they were walking proof that sometimes the worst didn't win. Sometimes someone still came back. One morning, Ava got a message. Civilian rescue rotation. Small team. She wasn't ordered. She was asked. We need someone who's been there, they said. Someone who doesn't break. She didn't say yes right away. That night, she told Cole. They were sitting outside again, same fire pit, same quiet air. They want me on a new team, she said. Different region. 6 months. Mostly flood zones. He looked at the fire. You going? I don't know. She waited. He didn't answer. She looked down at her hands. Feels like I'm leaving again. You're not, he said. It's different now. How? Because this time I know where you're going. And you know how to come back. She looked at him. Do you want me to stay? He didn't answer right away. Then he said, I want you to do what you were born to do. But I'm not go. I don't know if I can do this without you, she said softly. You can, he replied. You already did. She took the offer the next day. Before she left, she wrote him a letter. It wasn't long, just a few lines. She slipped it into his gear bag while he wasn't looking. On the front, read when it's quiet. He didn't read it right away. He waited. 3 weeks passed. Then one evening, back at base, the sky dark and calm, he finally opened it. Inside, her words. I thought the storm would end me, but you walked into it like it couldn't touch you. I didn't just survive because of you. I came back to life. If you ever wonder why I still fight, it's because you reminded me how. Don't disappear again. You matter more than you know. Ava. He folded the note, put it next to the photo, and smiled just barely. 2 months later, a message came in. Flood rescue, small village, heavy storm damage. His name wasn't on the list. He asked to be added. He didn't say why. He just packed his bag, grabbed Whiskey's leash and walked out. Not because he had to, but because somewhere out there, someone like Ava might be holding on, waiting for someone to come back for them. And this time, Cole wasn't going to be late. Thank you so much for staying with me until the very end of this story. If you enjoyed this story, I promise you will surely love the next one. This is crazier and more thrilling as you can ever imagine. So do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one.